You want to take a minute and see who's with us this morning on Zoom. They're right up there. They won't be there throughout the service because of different angles and so forth. So this is a chance. And so if you want to give them a wave back to Jim where the computer is. Hey, everybody. That's great. We UUs are called together by covenant, by mutual promise to walk together in the ways of faith. So let us join this morning as I ring the Tibetan bowl as a call to service. Listening as the sound fills the sanctuary and then recedes back into the silence. In this time, our hearts are open to each other.
Excuse my voice this morning. The allergies are kicking up. I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. I wish I could break all the chains holding me. I wish I could say all the things I could say. Say them loud, say them clear, for the whole world to hear. Say them loud and say them clear, for the whole world to hear. I wish I could share all the love that's in my heart. Remove all the bars that keep us apart. I wish you could know what it means to be me. And then you would agree, every man should be free.
You are heading out.
Then you will see and agree, every man.
I will remind him of the rules.
I wish I could give all I'm longing to give.
He knows better.
I wish I could live like I'm longing to live. I wish I could do all the things that I can do. And though I'm all way overdue, I'd be starting anew.
Okay.
Though I'm way overdue, I'd be starting anew. Well, I wish I could be like a bird in the sky. How sweet it would be if I found I could fly. I'd soar to the sun and then look down at the sea. Then I'd sing, 'cause I know how it feels to be free. Then I'd sing 'cause I know how it feels to be free.
Well, good morning. Good morning to our members and our friends and our visitors to the Unitarian Universalists of the Chester River, a church that is relevant in our lives, active in the world, and grounded in love and justice. Perhaps you join us this morning seeking community and the joy of seeing a familiar face on Zoom or in the sanctuary. Perhaps you're seeking comfort after a difficult week, or perhaps a deepening spirituality. Wherever you are on your life's path, we welcome you this morning. My name is Annie Lavin, and I'm your service leader this morning. This is our third Sunday back in the sanctuary after having hybrid services. And with each passing week, it feels even better because now we have our folks at home on the live Zoom feed. We are pleased to welcome Reverend James Gibbons Walker to our podium this morning. James drove up from Baltimore to be with us. He has visited us over the years, and we're glad he's back. James has been a UU since 1993, after retiring from more than 30-year career as a crisis counselor and a psychiatric social worker. He began his seminary education with the support of the UU Fellowship in St. Mary's County, where he later served as their minister from 2012 to 19. While at the UU Fellowship of Southern Maryland, he was a founding board member of PFLAG of Leonardtown and officiated at the first religious same-sex marriage in Southern Maryland in January of 13. Now back in Baltimore, he's active in the First Unitarian Church and doing pastoral care as well. And we are grateful to our congregant and well-loved musician, Philip, as always, and to our tech guys who we love as well, James Lavin and John Ramsey and David Beeler, for these services that they put on week after week in many different forms. The reopening committee has given us the green light to sing with masks on. In view of the downturn in the positivity rate in both of our counties, the reopening committee did decide to allow singing during the services with masks on. Next week, we will have the hymnals out. So this week, you can just hum along, sing along with Philip, do whatever moves you at the time, and it will be beautiful as always. If you're here in person, a reminder to drop your offering or your pledge in the basket in the lobby. If you're attending by Zoom, please access the donate button on the website. And we have an announcement about our pledge drive, which has begun and is most important. We really do have that. Here it is here. The Stewardship Committee wants to thank everyone who has sent in their pledge form. They have reached 60.6% of the goal already. A gentle reminder, though, to everyone that they would love to see the heart of that logo out there on the bulletin board overflowing by the end of the week. And they thank you for your support. And now, let us begin. I will light the chalice, and Reverend Walker will read the opening words, the chalice lighting words this morning.
I have too many things behind my ears. Our opening words are from the Unitarian Church of Burundi. When strangers meet, endless possibilities emerge. New experiences, new ways of understanding, and new ways of taking action. When strangers meet, each pays special attention to the other. Each is called to serve something larger than the self. Today, this morning, we light the chalice for openness, for willingness to grow, for rich curiosity, and for common purpose. Now we have a prayer by Unitarian Minister Max Kutz entitled, "Let Us Pray." Let our prayer be to the God who holds us in the hollow of his hands.
To the God who holds us in the curve of her arms.
To the God whose flesh is the flesh of hills and hummingbirds and angleworms.
And whose skin is the color of an old Black woman and a young white child.
And also the color of the leopard and the grizzly bear and the green grass snake, whose hair is like the aurora borealis, rainbows, nebulae, waterfalls, and a spider's web.
And whose eyes sometimes shine like the evening star, and then like fireflies, and then again like an open wound, whose touch is both the touch of life and the touch of death.
And whose name is everyone's, but mostly mine.
And what shall we pray? Let us
Let us
pray.
say,
Thank you.
This is a hymn we've sung many times, so perhaps you will sing along. Our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, they are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with the loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our heart stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
For opening words. The fact that we are a covenantal religion and not a creedal religion is why we're all sitting here today, I believe. It's an important distinction that Reverend Walker will help us look at in a few minutes and appreciate the richness and the challenge of our covenantal faith community. But as an introduction to this, I'd like to share a story that was helpful to me in understanding creedal versus covenantal, and perhaps it will be helpful to you as well. Thomas Ballat, he's a minister at Shawnee Mission congregation outside of Kansas City. He tells a story of going to a rally one day. And he said, I introduced myself as a Unitarian Universalist minister. And they asked me how to spell that. And then they asked me to explain what UUs believe. Well, we've all heard that. I explained that we're a covenantal faith, not a creedal one. We share a covenant of how we try to be together, not a creed of what we all must believe together. And then the questions began. Well, what does your church believe about the Bible? And Tom responds, that's a creedal question. We are a covenantal congregation. We share a covenant of how we try to be together and not what we're expected to believe together. Another question. Does your church believe in God? And his answer, that too is a creedal question. We're a covenantal faith. We share a covenant of how we try to be together and not what we're expected to believe together. Well, this went on for a while. It took them a little while to get the gist of what he was saying. He goes on to say that he believes that as Unitarians, we too often are explaining our religion by emphasizing the creeds that we're not asked to believe, rather than by emphasizing the covenants that we're asked to share and live our lives by. It doesn't matter who believes in what God or biblical doctrines or the afterlife, but what does matter is the covenant we share and how we share this in our values. That's covenantal. Over the years, we've heard and recited the words of James Blake, the Unitarian minister, who wrote the following. You're all familiar with this. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant. To dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. It is covenant that brings us out of our isolation, out of our selfish concerns, out of individuality, to join ourselves to something greater, to become part of a community that is working to practice love, to dwell together in peace, and to seek knowledge and wisdom together, to find better ways of living in this world. This, even without a creed, this is sacred religious work. So may it be. We now have acknowledgements of the heart. I will light a candle and invite you to come forward using the mic with your mask on and sharing a joy or concern that you have had in your heart in the past week or whenever. It helps build community and our love for each other. So I'll begin the first one, as is our tradition for each of us as we survive these difficult times, and all the people who have helped us from the very beginning of COVID till today and onward. And now, does someone else have a joy or concern that they would like to come up and share with the congregation?
Annie?
Oh, okay, just a minute. John, are you calling me?
No, it's
no,
me,
Carl.
Carl.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Well, wait a minute, we have Marilee and then we'll go to Carl.
Mask on, right?
Yeah.
You think, I was just up here as lay leader last week. You think I could remember these things? Of course, and I'm sure I share everybody. I'm thinking of the people of Ukraine. A couple days ago, my husband very quietly said, I wonder if they would take me in the Ukrainian army. And he's limping this week. I'm not limping so much this week, and I said, I don't think so, honey. But I'm having a hard time getting through the days. I really am. And so my heart is with all the people in harm's way. And I'm sure I'm not the only one.
Carl?
Yes, Annie, I just wanted to express how much of a joy it is to see everyone today. Brenda and I arrived at Buckingham's Choice this past Thursday, and we're in a temporary cottage now waiting for ours to be completed. And this place is quite welcoming, but I do miss all of you.
Thank you. We miss you, Carl. We miss you. Your seat is empty over by the window. We're where you usually sit. Is there anyone else who has a joy or concern?
Hi, you all. I have a series of things. I want to mention our niece-in-law in Louisiana, Jamie, who's been in the ICU and intubated for quite a while and doesn't seem to be getting much better. She's 50 and has 4 children. Youngest is in high school now, but it's a tough time for that whole family. And I also want to mention our friend Larry Samuels, who many of you remember and know his sister Karen. Well, Larry has had his mesothelioma and been quite ill for a while. Did his cancer treatments and all that good stuff. And then we just found out Friday he's in hospice in Centerville. But if you know Larry and his funny, wonderful ways, he's getting released from hospice because he has a longer prognosis than 6 months. And so he'll be moving back home sometime in March, according to his wife, Peggy. So I'll put an address in the broadsheet. And last and certainly not least, I want to celebrate Philip's 70th birthday month, really. We did so many things the whole month and I think he had a good time. I did. So.
Happy birthday, Philip.
Just an update on Betty Kerr. Nan and I went down to see her on a nice warm day last week, and we could sit out on the porch, and that's permissible. So if you want to, but you have to make an appointment to go to see them. But she really appreciates seeing us down there. So if it's not hard to get to 288 right to the end and go lane across, but you'd have to call the Rock of Ages in order to make an arrangement. And if a warm day, maybe we'll see her this week. But she seemed it was great, happy to see us there.
My name is James Gibbons Walker. I ask you to please remember in your thoughts and prayers this week the church that I belong to and serve as an affiliate minister of First Unitarian Church of Baltimore, as we too plan for a different future, a future of reopening, but continuing services that are broadcast to those who can't reach us.
Is there anyone else on Zoom or in the sanctuary that has a joy or concern? Then
I don't see anybody on Zoom wanting to speak.
And this final one will be for any joy or concern that remains unspoken in our hearts. Let's take a moment of silence.
This is another hymn you all probably know, so we'll go through it short. Let's go through it twice and maybe you can sing along with me. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How deeply you're connected to my soul.
So can I borrow you for a minute?
Sure.
It's been a while since I've done an email. Yeah. I did get in.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, this other computer over here has nothing. on it. Love it. Put it on this side.
That's kind of a weird way to introduce a time of centering. But let's take a moment in these really trying days to center, to settle in your chair, to close your eyes if that works for you, to open your heart to these words by Rosemary Trommer. And it's called Belonging. And if it's true that we're alone, then we're alone together. The way blades of grass are alone, but exist as a field. Sometimes I feel it, the green fuse that ignites us, the wild thrum that unites us, an inner hum that reminds us of our shared humanity. Just as 35 trillion red blood cells join in one body to become one blood, just as 136,000 notes make up one symphony, alone as we are, our small voices weave into one big conversation. Our actions are essential to the one infinite story of what it is to be alive. When we feel alone, we belong to the great communion of those who sometimes do feel alone. We are the dust that hopes, a rising of dust, a thrill of dust, the dust that dances in the light with all the other dust, the dust that makes the world. Let us take a moment here to reflect on these words. And blessed be. And now we welcome James to our podium and looking forward to his sermon entitled, The Life We Have Chosen.
Thanks to Annie and to all of you for having me here today. Have you ever had this conversation with someone? It's kind of echoes the conversation that we heard about a little while ago. Perhaps a coworker or a neighbor, or perhaps someone in your extended family. And the topic turns to religion. And you say, I'm a Unitarian Universalist. And the coworker or the extended family member or the neighbor wants to know more. And they ask, what do Unitarian Universalists believe? What I want to reflect with you on today is the importance of identifying and addressing assumptions about the way things are, about the way things have to be. And I want to speak with you about the power of challenging assumptions. Now, to ask what do Unitarian Universalists believe is to make an assumption, namely that uniting around a statement of belief is normative, that uniting around a statement of belief is what a religion is supposed to do. Certainly was that way when I was a Roman Catholic. Every Sunday service included reciting words first put together in the 4th and 5th centuries and fought over ever since. I believe in God, the Father. How many of you can come on? And the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth, and in Jesus Christ, his only Son, our Lord. It's been 30 years since I regularly said those words, but they are with me still, stuck in the part of my head, part of my mental furniture, and something I let go of, but it's still hanging around. Something to be aware of. Now, I love being a Unitarian Universalist. And I especially love being a Unitarian Universalist preacher, because being a Unitarian Universalist preacher means that I'm not expected to tell each one of you what to believe. I can reflect on my actions, on our actions as I understand them. I can reflect on my history, our history as I understand it. And these reflections tell me, can tell us, and if I'm lucky, where I and we have been and where I and perhaps we are called to go. Being a Unitarian Universalist means building your own theology. It means questioning, pushing. Being a Unitarian Universalist demands that we draw our inspiration from many sources. This is a dangerous way to travel on our life's journey. Not always smooth going. Yet this is the life, the journey that we have chosen. But what do Unitarian Universalists believe? How we are together in our congregations and in the wider world is not a matter of belief, but rather a matter of behavior. The chaplain, the Yale chaplain, William Sloane Coffin said, "The leap of faith is not so much a leap of thought as of action." Let's go back a minute and recall our principles. You know, they're in the hymnal right near toward the front. We, the member congregations of our Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote. These are our principles. Affirming and promoting them is our covenant, our agreement with each other about how we ought to be. A covenant is a framework of relating. It claims, I will abide with you in this common endeavor to be present as best I can in our becoming. Now, this calls for a level of trust, of courage, of sacrifice that needs to be nurtured and renewed and affirmed on a regular basis. A creed creates a static truth, something that does not incorporate new insights and realities. A covenant is a dance of co-creation, keeping in step with one another in the flow of our lives. A creed seeks uniformity and a unison voice. A covenant seeks harmony and a shared voice. A creed gives authority to a statement. A covenant gives authority to a shared intention. A creed creates us and them. A covenant invites relationship. A creed is a prescription that must be relied on. A covenant relies on the treasures of shared truth. Now, the courage within this covenant is the acceptance and celebration of life with all its challenges, its pains, its ironies, its joys. And the sacrifice within this covenant is the letting go of dogma, of assumptions, of control, and giving over to a greater wisdom which comes to us in bits and pieces and lots of unexpected places. Letting go can sometimes mean changing our assumptions. Now, freedom and tolerance have been central to our tradition, at least since the Reformation. But we can wonder if the many famous Unitarians and Universalists that we claim as ancestors could claim us, would claim us too. If they made it through the service, they'd certainly be shocked at coffee hour, at the theologies that some of us have built, at the realities that some of us confront, at the assumptions that we have challenged and changed. Let me give you one example of assumptions challenged and changed. And part of the example is chiseled into the front wall of First Unitarian Church of Baltimore. And part of it is a lengthy book. And all of it is the work of a 19th century Unitarian, James Freeman Clarke. Back then, Clarke was reacting to Calvinism's focus on original sin. So he framed the 5 points of liberal religion: the fatherhood of God, the brotherhood of man, the leadership of Jesus, salvation by character, and the progress of mankind onward and upward forever. If you visit First Unitarian Church in Baltimore, you can read these words carved in the wall, along with a little card underneath that explains its history and context. I think we would agree that the 5 points of liberal religion are kind of limited, if nothing else than by the outdated language. However, I want to note for you a more insidious, more subtle assumption articulated by Clarke in his book, The 10 Great Religions, but held by many people. James Freeman Clarke, you must remember, was a pioneer in what's called comparative theology, looking at different world religions and attempting to relate one to the other. But Clarke made this assumption. He presumed that Christianity is the religion of progress and universal unity. And he graded world religions as less and less useful copies of liberal Protestant Christianity. We've got it. You other great religions, you've only sort of got it. And the further you are from me in belief, in practice, the further you are from it. Now, if James Freeman Clarke would have come back today and we were talking at coffee hour, I would have to say, thank you for defending liberal religion. Thank you for being one of the first persons to explore world religions in any kind of depth. We built upon your work to go beyond it. And from this vantage point, I question your assumptions. how we are together in our congregations and in the wider world is not a matter of belief, but rather a matter of behavior. It is not mouthing words, it's taking action. The old Unitarian adage comes back to me, deeds, not creeds. Or more forcefully, the words of James Baldwin, I can't believe what you do. I can't believe what you say because I see what you do. With that in mind, I'd like to highlight two of our principles that make me both particularly happy and demand a response that is conscious and deliberate and hard. The interdependent web. Things depend on me, I depend on others. Frances Ellen Watkins Harper said, we are all bound up together in one great bundle of humanity, and society cannot trample on the weakest and feeblest of its members without receiving a curse on its own soul. More and more since Frances Watkins Harper said those words in the 1800s, more and more we've become aware, reminded again and again, most recently in the television news, of how connected we all are. Something happening 6,000 miles away preys on our minds, tugs our hearts. We are in a network of mutual responsibility and support. I have to share with you an artifact. Those of us who are old enough to remember when this was a revolutionary concept. An assumption that was broken and given a new way of thinking. As the astronauts looked at the Earth from the moon, took pictures of the Earth and realized it was all one big organism. People in Judaism, particularly Reform Judaism, talk about the obligation to mend the world. I think that's our obligation too. At the same time, this seventh principle makes me aware of how dependent I am on people that I will never see, people that I will never know, people that give me electricity and broadband service and mine the minerals that go into this phone that I can't live without. And about how I'm called to walk gently on the earth, not wasting anything that I've been given. Now, the first principle, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, applies to me, applies to all of us, but fights against the assumption that I was brought up with, that people are ill, that people are bad, that people are wrong, as we sang about just recently, and replaces it with the idea of original blessing. Feeling good enough. This applies, we say, to everyone. Everyone? What would it look like to proclaim that people are sacred just for being alive? What would it mean to let go of my assumptions about worth and value and place in society and focus on something greater than ethical goodness. Our sacredness and our worth are tied to something greater than each individual. When we talk about all souls being sacred and worthy, it is a truly rational, radical statement. We don't focus on whether or not somebody is damned or divine, because it doesn't matter where they're going. It matters that they are here and demanding of our attention. We have, all of us, all our different congregations, a unique opportunity right here. We've been away from our buildings for almost a year and a half. And when we come back, we're looking with fresh eyes, challenging our assumptions, challenging the assumptions that our buildings communicate about who we are and what we are. And when we come back, let's continue to look with fresh eyes at our images of the divine, and our assumptions about what it means to live in a community. When we come back, we want to treasure the gifts that this year and a half, 2 years have given us. We've discovered Zoom. People on the board of First Unitarian have said to me, I don't want to have another board meeting in person. I don't want to get in my car and drive downtown when I can talk to all of you from the comfort of my living room. An assumption changed. We always did it this way, but we don't have to. And when we come back, let's continue to look at the covenant, the set of expectations that we share, a framework of our relating, a level of trust and courage and sacrifice that needs to be nurtured and renewed and affirmed on a regular basis. The task of the covenant is to take responsibility for the freedom that we espouse. We know that we are interconnected, and that what we do creates ripples of hope or despair, of affirmation or negation. What we do with and for one another is powerful and beyond our imagining. A dance of co-creation, shared intention, inviting relationship, relying on the treasures of shared truth. This isn't a matter of belief, but of behavior, walking gently, taking time. Each time we worship, we celebrate that freedom and that responsibility. Each time we worship, we build each other up in sharing, in trust, in nourishment, making a beloved community. This is what we have. This is what we make together. This is the life that we have chosen. And now, if you just take a minute to think, and then I would be happy to share, listen to your thoughts.
As we do with joys and concerns, I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts or questions or just things to share that are in your heart after this wonderful sermon. And you're welcome to come up and share it with the congregation.
I lay in bed at night and think strange thoughts.
Right.
And one of them is, what does it mean to be Unitarian? And I have friends, of course, many Christian friends, and questions come up. And I've read a lot, way more religious stuff than I would like to ever do again. But the question is, God one? Do we have one God? It doesn't matter. It's how you treat other people. It's God in three parts. It really doesn't matter because it's how we treat other people.
I think you're quoting from Lincoln's second inaugural address, which
Yes.
is a very powerful theological statement. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Judy.
I've been a Unitarian since 1966. I'm a seventh principle Unitarian. I always assumed that that would include all animals and all plants. I did not know it was only humanity until I got over here. I think that is very limiting in that the condition of the earth means we really should consider all animals and all plants as part of us.
Anyone else?
May I say that I agree? And I think that that's another challenge inherent in that seventh principle. Because wherever we go as human beings, we make a mess.
Yes.
I mean, we do. I made a mess driving over here. I burned carbon and tires and stuff like that coming over here. But I wanted to. And I kind of had to, although I could have zoomed, I guess. So it's all about choices and assumptions. And all I'm asking you to do as you move forward as a congregation is to just question your assumptions. Think about, why am I doing this? What are my sort of mental maps? I'll tell you two. Does anybody else want to say something? I can tell you two stories real quick. First year that my spouse and I were together, it's the day after Christmas. We wake up, we get out of bed, and she says to me, "It's time to take the Christmas decorations down." And I say, "What?" And she says, "Well, that's what you do." And I said, "That's not what I do." How many of these just, this is the way it is. This is how things go. This is what's right. These are the things that we're challenged to look at, and look at them in a spirit of love and caring, rather than a spirit of diminishing and insulting.
Thank you. And that seventh principle is close to all of our hearts as we look at all of creation as one. For closing words this morning, let us keep our hearts open to those people, those folks in Ukraine, Russia, all of Europe, all the world, as they experience the fear of war and ongoing oppression. In these days of uncertainty for all of us, it's difficult to balance the extremes of life, to hold both joy and suffering, and all the while create a space for peace. Many of you may know Parker Palmer. He's an author, he's an educator, activist, Quaker, and he says the following about heartbreak and holding suffering with a supple heart. And may these words touch yours as well. Heartbreak comes with the territory being called human. When love and trust fail us, when what once brought meaning goes dry, when a dream drifts out of reach, a devastating disease strikes, or someone precious to us dies, our hearts break and we suffer. But there are two quite different ways for the heart to break. There's the brittle heart that breaks apart into 1,000 shards, a heart that takes us down as it explodes. And then there's the supple heart, the one that breaks open not apart, growing into greater capacity for the many forms of love. Only the supple heart can hold suffering in a way that opens to new life. And may this be. We will now extinguish the chalice.
I'm supposed to hold up this big.
No,
sign.
no, 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 you don't have to hold it up.
I want to. Ooh, it's printed on both sides. Oh, no, I see.
This is good, it's facing out.
It's facing correctly.
When we extinguish
It's
this,
displaying
then
not the light, the truth. One for the commitment or the fire.
These we carry in our hearts till we meet again.
And I just know we could have done that without the sign.
Just my fun.
And he saved me today. I was going to ask you to sing along with me on this postludes, and I was going to be a scofflaw, but she saved me. So I want you to sing along this song with me. You can do that little tap on your leg, maybe. This is a song by Eliza Gilkison. If you don't know Eliza, you need to look her up. I'm sure Matt knows her. So you can, your line is with peace in our hearts. And it's a blues song, so the second line is just like the first line. So you can join in there once you hear me sing the first line, right? Here's how it goes. We're gonna walk together arm in arm with peace in our hearts. That's it. We're gonna walk together arm in arm with peace in our hearts. We're gonna walk together arm in arm so our sisters and our brothers won't come to any harm. We know we've got peace in our hearts. That's it. Yeah. We're going, I always get the timing right. Gonna walk with every color and tribe with peace in our hearts. We're gonna walk with every color and tribe with peace in our hearts. We're gonna walk with every color and tribe, 'cause we're stronger together when we're on the same side. We know we've got peace in our hearts. We're gonna stand for the earth and the children too, with peace in our hearts. We're gonna stand for the earth and the children too, with peace in our hearts. We're gonna stand for the earth and the children too, 'cause it'll take everyone to make this dream come true. We know we've got peace in our hearts. We're gonna stare into the face of the hateful mind with peace in our hearts. We're gonna stare into the face of the hateful mind with peace in our hearts. We're gonna stare into the face of the hateful mind. All we gotta do is let our love light shine. We know we've got peace in our hearts. Okay, first verse again. We're gonna walk together arm in arm with peace in our hearts. We're gonna walk together arm in arm with peace in our hearts. We're gonna walk together arm in arm so our sisters and our brothers won't come to any harm. We know we've got peace in our hearts. Tag it. We know we've got peace in our hearts. One more time. We know we've got peace in our hearts. Nice. Thanks. Oh, lift it up, love bless your way. Moonlight light, starlight, guide your journey into peace and the brightness of day.
Thank you, James, for being with us today. And for those of you who know God, however you know that to be, may God go with you. For those who love life, may life return the affection. And may each of us find truth on the path that we are seeking. Have a wonderful week.